Hi everyone. If you have been following my career channel updates from October to January, it should be no surprise by this point that I released my album Memory Volume 1 earlier this year. Only a few days later, however, my wife and I had our third kiddo, so it's actually taken me until now to finally wrap up the official announcement and share the full story that created this album. So, here we go. From the day I started playing the piano back in late 2009, I had this incessant 10-year run of developing myself as a professional classical pianist. This was capped off, so to speak, with the first top prize win I received at an international competition, the George Gershwin in New York City in November of 2019. Until that point, nothing had really stopped my music plans for longer than a few days here and there. It was just go, go, go. But as soon as COVID hit, things changed, like they did for everyone. 2020 was a big year that caused me to largely put down playing the piano altogether. To start off, I got married and at the beginning of the year, and then COVID hit in March. We moved on our own while I was trying to graduate from University of Miami in my final semester, which was all remote due to the pandemic, so I had to give a recital online and everything. It was just crazy. And I was left looking for work in basically a shut down world, but I really wanted to stay within music. Then in the next 2 years, we had a couple of kids, which added more financial pressures. And all of these focuses caused me to create a music business and think how I could support us and scale that and everything. So all my free time went to teaching, accompanying, and deep diving into the online music industry. And kind of was nonstop. So I wasn't able to pick up my piano playing again until early 2023, now that I had kind of got my feet up again. Started up lessons again with a guy named Mark Salman in Seattle, a Horowitz student. I scheduled in practice time to be as consistent as I could. I took every opportunity I could to perform, whether it was just one piece or like a free house concert, just to kind of get nerves out. And I prepared for 4 major competitions that were all above my level, just to push myself to new heights so I'd like have a challenge and couldn't just back out. But despite all of these action steps, I was still really rusty. And I only had about 10 hours a week to practice, as opposed to 6 to 8 per day that I was used to in my teenage years. So this limited window, paired with high pressure auditions, forced me to select repertoire, which really demonstrates me at my best, personally, musically, technically, all that. So this program comes from music that was learned all in the first 5 years of my piano lessons. That way I had lived with it the longest, and I could focus solely on polishing the music without having to learn a million notes and spend all my time just getting my head around it. But it was cool because this review and polish process kickstarted Memory Volume 1. It became a lot more than just another album for me. Instead, it was like a personal journey of my musical portfolio. And that's something I'd wanted to put together for over 8 years, actually. So as this idea became a reality, I wanted my audience to experience this program with the enthusiasm I personally had preparing and recording it. This meant, of course, adding some personal touches beyond just the music itself. So from my earliest roots, I used to do lecture recitals that told the story behind the music I played. Because for me, that story is a large part of what makes it so fun to learn as a pianist. And audiences have always loved this behind-the-scenes look. They always say, oh, that really brought me in or something. So I just made it a regular habit early on. But this album is the first time I've actually brought that format to a recorded scenario. Next, I was fortunate to collaborate with the great recording engineer, Adam Lansky, to secure not only the highest possible audio quality, but also produce an awesome-looking video. So I couldn't go all this way just to be on an insufficient instrument. Luckily, a colleague of mine loaned me studio time on one of the finest pianos mankind can acquire, the Fazioli F278, which has been rising in popularity, especially from its use in the Chopin International Piano Competition in Warsaw. So, with all this in place, I designed a package deal that I think presents this musical offering according to the standard of love and dedication that I personally have for it. First, we have the highest quality audio tracks. Next, we have video tracks to go along with that. 2 bonus tracks that are not on streaming services and a little bit of description and history behind them and why they were included in the album, a 17-minute video commentary and program notes about the music that tells you the history of the composers, but also my own journey with it and why I picked these pieces. And if that weren't enough, I'm also throwing in an extended edition copy of my 2017 album, Rite of Passage, in honor of this memory theme, looking back to my career highlights. This updated version of that album has never been released until this year. The whole package is actually valued at $150, but I know that that's unaffordable for most people, so I wanted it to be accessible to people who are in my scenario, and I've cut the price down to $27 for the time being. And if that is still too much, you can also select just the audio download of either album for $9 or $7 respectively. This package is now available on my website, which is linked in the description below. This album release marks the beginning of what I consider to be my newly defined musical purpose, the journey to help people experience music in a more personal and meaningful way, whether as a student, audience member, or a professional themselves. As a Christian, I know it was God who gave me the gift of music and the love for pursuing it in my teenage years. The beauty of this piano music and a life centered around it offered me so much comfort as I grew up, and it still does to this day. So it's my goal to give back in the same way I received this gift. I'm convinced that this package will inspire you and build your love of music all the more, no matter what your background in music is. So thanks for sticking around and hearing my story. I appreciate your support greatly. And now that this album is finally wrapped, I'm actually on to several other projects, which I'm very excited to share about on this channel in due time. So stick around, and I'll see you then. Cheers.